Okay, so this is going to be a tough video to follow, especially if you are watching it without having spoken to me. But we're going to introduce classes. Now I'm going to do this slowly because it is a complex idea. What you can think of a class is, I'll just get paint up because we know that's my best teaching tool. So what you can think of a class is, in object-oriented programming, which is what C# is. So Python has an object-oriented programming part to it, but in C# it's full of object-oriented, and I'll explain what that means. It means everything is part of a class, and as I explain what a class is, it will become more apparent. But essentially a class is like a blueprint. Let's say I'm making a program that's going to store information about, actually let's do football teams because I talked about it before. So when I've got a football team, you've got to think what's in a football team. So let's make the class called football team. Okay. Actually, do you know what? I'm not going to use football team. I'm going to use, and I will use football team. Okay, why not? Okay, so I've got a football team. So what are we going to store about it? Now I'm only going to, just to be clear, I'm talking about a football team in a league. I'm not actually, so I'm doing the Premier League. I'm not actually going to talk about the actual players in the team. This is just going to be if we wanted to say have the Premier League where we've got a table that says like name of the team, wins, losses, all that stuff. We're not going to have the players in it. You could make one that does that, but that's not what we're going to do. So we've got the team name, okay? Because in the league, you're going to have the team name, right? So I'm just going to quickly get up the Premier League table. I hope that's not going to be, obviously it's going to start, it's the start of the season when I'm doing this, so there's no one in it. So if we paste that into here. Okay, so we've got team name here. Could call it club, right? And we've got MP. I'm going to use their, well, I'm not going to use their names because I'm going to say matches played. I'm not going to use a shortened version. I'm going to say wins, draws, losses. Now in reality, I don't need matches played because I can calculate that from the wins and draws and losses. So, and they probably do. So I'm not going to do that. Goals for. Do you know what? I'm going to not bother with the goals for, goals attack, and I'm just going to leave it as that, right? Because I can calculate the points. I can, so I'm just going to do wins, draws, and losses, and that's it, right? So I'm just going to have 4 things, but it's the same thing over and over again. I just can't bother to, when I write it in a minute, I can't bother to have loads, right? So let's create that class in C#, right? So I'm going to move that there, I'm going to bang that there. I'm going to move that over and slide that to there. So let's create a class called, right, so above class program, doesn't have to be, but I'm going to write class football team. Now just remember, when I'm making this still doesn't exist. It's a template to make them. Think about sort of inventing a new variable. Like we can make an integer by going in I. Well, in a minute we're going to make a football team by going football team A, football team B, and we'll have A and B, and we can make team name in A, Arsenal, team name in B, whatever. So we need the 4 things that are in it, okay? Now I'm not in this video, I'm not going to explain public and private. I'll do that in the next video, but I feel like it's too much in this one. So first video, I'm just going to put public string because the team name's a string, and I'm going to call it team name. Okay, then I'm going to have public integer for wins. I'm going to call them wins, not win, because it says better. And I'm going to copy that and paste, and I'm going to have draws, and I'm going to have losses. Okay, right, now, there's still no football team at all in our program. What we have to do is what's called instantiate one. Okay, so we bring one into instance, bring one to existence. So I'm going to make one called football team F1, whatever. Then I'm going to make a football team called F2. Okay, right, now, what I can then do is go F1 dot team name equals Arsenal. Okay, then I can go, oh, I've got to do equals new football team. So I forgot that I've got to create a new one, like this. Okay. And I'll talk about that later. But basically, because these are data structures and they need memory, you have to use the new to create it. Okay, and we'll talk about deleting them and other things later. But right now, we're not going to worry about that. So I've created a new football team. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to get football F1 to Arsenal. F2 team name is going to be Bournemouth, because it's the first one. Oh, I should have done like a spell easier. And there we go. Let's actually do all of the ones. Just do f1.wins equal 10. And I want to show you the power of a class in a minute, so I'm trying to whip through this. Losses equals 3, although that doesn't actually matter for what I want to show you. Let's just very quickly, and then I can get on with the important bit. And we'll do 2 draws. And then we're going to very quickly copy and paste that underneath. And then we're going to do 5, 6, 6. No, we don't care. Okay, so now, and if I run that, nothing will happen because I'm not doing anything. Like, it's adding the data. Yeah, brilliant, fantastic code, but it doesn't do anything. But what I can do now is obviously console.writeLine f1.name, team name. And then when I run it, it will say Arsenal. And so you're seeing now earlier, when I said to you about arrays not having like, oh, randomly column 3 is the wins. But we could, I'm not going to do it in this video because I don't want to get into it, but I can make an array of teams. So I could create a team for all the teams, Bournemouth, Arsenal, I spelled Bournemouth probably wrong, Chelsea, set them to 0 at the start of the season, add them to an array in alphabetical order, and then, then I could, add all the teams into an array. So you would be, and instead of saying like, oh, team 1, column 4, which I hope is games played, I can go teams 1 dot, and I can do wins dot draws, and you're much less likely to make a mistake. Now, inside classes, they can have their own methods, a bit like subprograms, but they're linked to this. It's best described by showing. Now, we want to know how many points a team's got, and I could have stored that. Public points, but then every time I change wins, draws and losses, I've got to recalculate points because that's how it's done. So why do I store points? I mean, really, points is calculated. If you don't know how football works, you get 3 points for a win and 1 for a draw. So what I can do is I can create a method, a bit like a function. It's going to return integer. We'll call it points. Okay, it's going to take no parameters, right, because it doesn't need to. Then it will return wins times 3 plus draws. Okay, so I can then go down here. I'm just going to delete Bournemouth now because I don't need. I can always undo it later, and I can actually go right. I want to do what's f1.points. Okay, and it will work out that we've got 32 points. I think if I can do my basic maths. There you go, 32. And so I've got a little thing that will return the number of points. But this is called a method. It's similar to a function because it does something like a function does, right? But it's called a method because it's part of a class. And the reason why I really wanted to explain that to you is that because everything in C# is part of a class, even our main program is a method called main, which is part of a class called program. So our main program is a class called program, right? So if we were to make something in here just like randomly to double a number like that, in D. So this function is going to take in a number and return D times 2, right? So you might call that a function, and it normally would be a function, but because C# is object orientated, and it is basically a function, it's actually a method, and it's a method because it's part of a class. It's a method of a class. But in C# everything is a class, just like in Java, everything is a class. So, and Java is very similar to C# in many ways in terms of the way it looks. So that even the main program is a class of its own. But that's all I really wanted to show you in the first lesson on classes. No way am I expecting you to understand all the stuff. But what I'm trying to get you to is just understand what is the main thing to it. And here's an example, a great one actually. Another really cool thing you do about can do with classes, like if I try to print, let's try and print the class. So if I try and print out F1, right? So I'm literally printing all of the team. Okay, it just prints out that. It doesn't print out anything, right? But I can actually override the command, right? When you do that, it's basically going .toString, okay? Like that. That's basically what it's doing. It runs a .toString sort of method, right? Then we can override that. So here I can go public override. I haven't done this in a while, so I might get this wrong. Right, toString, okay? And then we can so now we're going to say when it prints, I can structure out how to return what it prints. So I'm going to do a formatted string, and I'm going to go right. Okay, quotes. I'm going to go. Let's just get that back there before I mess everything up. I'm going to go team name, and then I'm going to actually have the team name. So I put that in curly brackets because that's how we do that. Then I'm going to go wins. Now I can't bother to do all this. So I'll be honest with you. I'm just going to do wins and then points, right? And I'm going to show you something cool. You can even run this method in our toString. Actually, I'm just going to do the team name and any points they've got, because you can see the same thing. I'll just be writing wins and then wins in here. But I can go points, and then I can actually run the points function like this inside this string. So it's a formatted string with $. So basically, when I try and print out a football team, it's going to run this. It's going to return team name, the word team name, plus whatever's in there. Then it's going to return the word points, I'll do space, plus the function points. So now if I run it, you'll see that it will say team name Arsenal points 32. And so that's a really cool thing. I've actually told it how to print it. Like I've overwritten, if I want to print this class, how do you want it to come out? And you can do lots of other clever things like that. You can override the plus. So say if I want to add 2 football teams together for whatever crazy reason, not really useful for football teams, but very useful with things like dates and times. You can override things like add. So when you add 2 dates together, it will do the bit that works out how to add the dates together. And you write all the code for that. So you can see how really cool classes are. They're a great, really advanced thing. I've only just touched on the surface of them. There's loads of crazy stuff with classes that we're going to get into. But hopefully you've seen the usefulness of them straight away in the, there you go. And just in case you're thinking it's quite annoying to do Arsenal 10-2-1, you can create these crazy things we're going to do in the next video, where you just you write all of the starting numbers like this in what's called a constructor, and then it will basically put those into the right variables straight away as you make a team. Which is really good, or you can have default values. It's brilliant. So we'll get into that, but I just wanted to introduce what a class was and show you the basics of what one is, and hopefully it did that.